talking about neurotransmitters and their major functions and where they're produced. Acetylcholine has two roles, one in the central nervous system and another in the uh, peripheral nervous system. Let's begin with the PNS. In the peripheral nervous system, acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter that makes your muscles fire. So it's at the neuromus neuromuscular junction. There are many steps involved in human movement, and we'll talk about a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them. You might think of acetylcholine as at the very end of the output cycle. So acetylcholine is that very last phenomenon that causes muscles to actually contract. And what is movement? It's the coordinated contraction and relaxation of skeletal muscle, right? Now, acetylcholine is not involved in the planning of the movement or any thing with the front end. It is just that final piece that makes muscles contract. In the central nervous system, acetylcholine has a role in learning and memory and in initiation of REM sleep. As such, even though I, for one, think this drug is basically useless, but the only approved medication for Alzheimer's is an acetylcholine agonist. One well known pro cognitive, as in drug that improves cognitive function, these are sometimes called neurotropics, but I prefer pro cognitive. Um, you have is it Aricept, I believe. Aricept, something like that. And nicotine. What acetylcholine does to neurons is it allows for high frequency a asynchronous activity. So you could imagine, just theoretically, if you're bored, your brain activity might look something like this. This is not real data. This is just conceptual. Now, if we boost your acetylcholine, then what it allows your neurons to do is to have more asynchronous but higher frequency activity. And this is what you need for things like learning, memory, attention. And it is also what differentiates REM from other stages of sleep. And we'll talk about sleep much later. As far as drugs, as far as drugs go for this whole presentation, you only really need, for exam purposes, you only really need to know the ones I talk about. Botulinum toxin, very interesting. This is an acetylcholine antagonist, prevents release at the terminal bouton, prevents release. So if you don't have acetylcholine release, you're not going to have muscle contraction. So this causes paralysis of muscles. This is sold as Botox. There are several uses of Botox, predominantly cosmetic. Reduces wrinkle appearance, but also paralyzes the muscles of the face, which has interesting social consequences. We can talk about that in a discussion maybe if you want. Uh, Other uses for Botox in chronic, severe migraines. Botox can be injected into the muscles of the cranium and provide temporary but significant relief. To reduce sweating, to provide relief from spasm. Uh, if you've ever had a Charlie horse where your ankle, sorry, not your ankle, your calf turns into a rock, well, imagine if that's happening in your back, for example. Your doctor might resort to, this is not common, but they might resort to a Botox injection into the irritated muscle, hopefully relaxing it and allowing for your body to heal whatever damage had caused the muscle to get stuck in a spasm. Another random but interesting treatment is in Tourette's. Um, my friend has a kind of Tourette's where he grimace. He would furrow his brows. Now this is socially tough. So he would get Botox into the muscles of his forehead, and it would relax these muscles, allowing him some relief from the particular kind of Tourette's he had. Now, there are two receptor families for acetylcholine, the nicotinic, which is the ionotropic, and the muscarinic, which is the metabotropic. And nicotinic, again, let's talk about nicotine. This this is not talk. I'm not talking about smoking. I'm talking about the chemical nicotine. Does cause temporary improvement in attention and memory. But this is only in nicotine naive individuals. Because remember tolerance and withdrawal. The nicotine addict is not starting at baseline, they're starting at a deficit. Remember later addiction, which is basically all nicotine addiction pretty quickly transforms into this. Later addiction is about avoiding the withdrawal and trying to get back to baseline. But in animal studies, or again in nicotine naive individuals, there is a cognitive boost. Next, we'll talk about a large family of neurotransmitters, the monoamines.